have 8 games that I wrote down and considered to be big games that are worthy of breakdowns. And so not including the first 2 games, and then Kentucky and Mississippi State. Maybe that's a mistake on me. They're 2 SEC opponents, but the talent level on them, I don't think is worthy of like a preseason breakdown. So yeah, like there's a reason. I'm sorry. So we got 8 games, 10 shows left. We're gonna try to break down all of these games before the season starts. And first one we're gonna do here is Florida versus LSU, Week 3, night game in Death Valley. It's gonna be a fun game. Now we all know that Florida was able to end that 5-game losing streak. 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 6-game losing streak, 5-game losing streak to LSU. Haven't beat them since 2018 when Joe Burrow threw his first 2 career interceptions. So it was real nice to get that done, but this is like a whole new LSU team besides the quarterback. Almost everything on this LSU team is different. They went into the transfer portal, and they went heavy into the portal, and it's going to be interesting because you've seen teams go heavy into the portal and it work out. You've seen the same team go heavily into the portal and it work out and fail. We're talking about FSU, of course. So I think LSU quite clearly has a higher ceiling or a higher floor than what FSU did from last year. But it's going to be interesting to see how this strategy ends up paying off for the Tigers. Just quickly, what do you think? Just real quick, we'll break it down more. What do you think of this LSU team?
Yeah, I mean, a team that, first of all, has kind of completely reversed what it was trying to do. Like, if you remember, Brian Kelly going into last season after they lost a couple high-profile transfer battles, kind of made the point of like, we don't want to give our NIL to transfer guys. We want to focus on high school recruiting. Well, they changed their mind here because, like you said, this is a completely new look roster on both sides of the ball. A lot of new pieces. I mean, I think for the most part, it's upgrades. I mean, we'll get into it. I think, you worry about like the offensive line with everything they lost. The defense was still not very good last year. It took strides at the end. It was an improved unit under Blake Baker after it was, disastrous in 2023. I mean, an offense, a team that went 9-3 or whatever with an offense that had the NFL Rookie of the Year and the 2 best rookie receivers in the NFL on it. So still couldn't win more than 9 games because of how much of a limiting factor the defense was. It was still a problem in 24. So, I mean, I think this is a team that has the potential, but it's really just hard to say because of how much is new on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, like all that talent, and wasn't it going into last year that Brian Kelly had won like 10 games since every year since like 2017?
Yeah, something like that.
So until last year where they went 8-4 in the regular season, it's like LSU easily could have gone like 6-6 too. I mean, they should not have won that South Carolina game.
Yep, they should have lost that game.
And
it was stolen from them.
They didn't cheat Ole Miss out of a win at all, but like Ole Miss choked that game away more than LSU won it. I mean, LSU won it, but like Ole Miss choked that game away fully as well. So that easily could have been a 6-6, not including the bowl game team there. So it's going to be very interesting to see how much those portal grabs really help this team, because I feel like a lot of people just thought that this LSU team is like one player away. But like we just talk about it, and it's like most of their losses last year were blowouts. I mean, A&M, they get blown out in the second half. That Bama game, they got blown out in the second half. Obviously, we didn't blow them out, but like Florida ends up winning that game by 11, and that game was over with 5 minutes to go there. So, and what was their other loss I'm forgetting? Week 1 to USC, a USC team that wasn't even that one ended up going 6-6. So this was an LSU team that they had the win over Ole Miss, but and in South Carolina that ended up aging. The win itself aged well. How they won it was still questionable, but like, I think there's a bit more worry for LSU, in my opinion, than I think a lot of media is looking at it. I think in a whole, I think there's a lot of like LSU bias, because you look at year 2 starting QB, you look at the success that Brian Kelly has had as a coach, and you look at the stats of Garrett Nussmeier, and it's like, oh, well, this is exactly what Jaden Daniels did, like maybe a less win or so, and like, oh, this is the exact same like thing that Joe Burrow did. But I think there's a lot less talent, and I don't think Nussmeier is anywhere close to what Burrow and Burrow and Daniels are two of the best QBs in NFL. They're the best QBs in college, so it's saying he's not close to them is quite obvious. But I don't think he's going to be close to them in terms of impact on this team that those two were.
So I like Nussmeier a lot. I think he's got a lot of talent. I've seen some really nice play from him. I think it's easy to forget that he really did not have a lot of experience going into last season. The only like extended action you'd really seen was in games that were already lost against Georgia in the SEC championship in 22, and then Alabama in 2023 when Jaden Daniels got hurt, which was also a game that was out of reach at the time. So, I think he will improve, but I think there's no doubt that going into last season, people kind of expected this to be a little bit more turnkey on offense than it ended up being. I think part of that is because, frankly, they didn't have the same level of receivers after they lost Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. I think that's been rectified this offseason to a large degree. Bringing in Nick Anderson, who I think we'll see. He didn't play last season, was hurt, but looked pretty good when he, in 2023 before that. So we'll see if he bounces back. Barry and Brown, a good transfer from Kentucky, and then bringing back Aaron Anderson, who kind of had a breakout season last year. So, I like this offensive unit. I think the concern here is you lost everything along the offensive line. You lost 4 of 5 starters. The only returner is center DJ Chester, who was already...
It might not even start.
Yeah, it might not even start. And he was the weak link on the starting offensive line last year anyway. So that doesn't necessarily fill you with confidence. And then again, just all the new pieces on defense. Like, did this team get better? I think so. They add Jack Pyburn, who, like, say what you will about Pyburn. I think everyone...
A good floor raiser.
Yeah, he's a good player. Like, Pyburn is a nice addition to that team. Patrick Payton, a guy who didn't have a very good year last year at FSU, was very surprising. A lot of people thought he was going to be a first-round caliber player. Didn't really end up panning out. We'll see how that works this time around. Obviously they added Jakeem Jackson from Florida in the secondary, some other guys, Mansour Delane, a corner transfer from Virginia Tech. So a lot of new pieces. They're playing Harold Perkins at in the slot now at nickel. I will never understand the way Harold Perkins has been utilized by Matt House and Blake Baker and Brian Kelly. It'll never make sense to me. But they've chosen to do what they've chosen to do. I think LSU is just a hard team to project. I could see this being a playoff team, and I think that's certainly where their expectations are at. But it's also pretty easy to see this being a team that has a lot of issues and either finishes around 8-4 again, maybe even backslides to like a 7-5. I don't think any of that's really out of the realm of possibility, which I think makes this week 3 game so interesting, because I think it's two teams that I think the same is true for Florida. I think Florida could be a playoff team. I think Florida could be a 7-5, 6-6 team, honestly. I think it really just depends on how a few things break.
So we talk about Nussmeier not having too much experience, and it's true, but he's going into his redshirt senior season here. This is his 5th season now at LSU. Last year was his 4th. And I feel like a lot of Nussmeier's biggest issues were a lot of mental things. It's some physical stuff, but all the sacks he was taking, I don't think he has the greatest arm in the world. And it's I don't know how good of a deep ball thrower he is, but his biggest issue were those turnovers and all the sacks he was taking. And it's maybe a feeling out process there. So maybe it's not necessarily just learning and knowing when. It could just be a thing to where, hey, now he's got a full year, he's ready to improve on it. But for a player to going into his 5th season and still needing, I think, to take a pretty large step, I think it's something very interesting about him. And it's I feel like when you have a lot of 5th-year players, it's okay, you know exactly what they are. And it's they're good or they're bad. Maybe they're solid, but we're starting here with the QB position for LSU. And it's Nussmeier is just it's just so uncommon for someone of his age to be in a spot where he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a weird position because most guys would not sit on the bench for 3.5,
That's true.
4 years waiting to start. So, I mean, he's been in a couple different systems. Obviously was there for the last year of Ed Orgeron and stuck around through Brian Kelly coming in. So, and then he's had 2 different offensive coordinators during his time under Brian Kelly at LSU. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of operating under the assumption that I think Garrett Nussmeier still has room to improve, but maybe that's not the
Yeah.
case. I mean, like you said, he is a 5th year. So, I mean, that is definitely an assumption I'm making that might not be correct. And I mean, I think if he doesn't improve, like if he's the same quarterback as last year, where like he's going to produce, he's going to have nice plays, but he's also going to have some really maddening and costly turnovers. It's hard for me to believe this LSU team has that much higher of a ceiling. Because I think like you could kind of argue that the improvements at the skill position talent might be kind of a wash when you think about how they're probably going to take a step back along the offensive line. I think the defensive additions are nice. Are they nice enough to turn this from like a bottom half SEC defense to like a top 5 one? I don't think so. I think kind of the best you're hoping for is serviceable there. So I think Garrett Nussmeier is kind of the X factor here, because if Garrett Nussmeier is a Heisman candidate, I think they have enough elsewhere to kind of patch it together and be a very good team. But if you're dealing with a guy who's making really costly mistakes again, I don't know if this team is like complete and dominant enough elsewhere to be much better than they were last year.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to learn. I mean, we're going to learn a lot about them from week 1 when they play Clemson, but it's also like we saw with us, teams can improve and everything. But I mean, LSU. So, I mean, actually, let's just stick here with the quarterback. So, we talked about Nussmeier. We gave our opinions. They brought in Michael Van Buren from Mississippi State, who statistically was pretty solid for Mississippi State, pretty high ceiling guy. Yeah. Although freshman, I do think
right?
I believe freshman
last year.
So, yeah, freshman last year. So it's like he played pretty well, put up some stats against some good teams. Although I think something people may not have accounted for was the fact that teams were kind of sandbagging him. And it's like Van Buren could very well be a really good QB, but I think it's a bit more of a question when he faces a team that's like fully trying to go after him and not trying to let him score at all. Versus when you're just like, okay, we don't want to risk injuries in this game. We're just going to play in. Your defense is going to give up 38 points per game in conference play. So it's like, yeah, we're not going to do too much there. But, I mean, it's a solid room. I mean, Colin Hurley, former Jacksonville kid as well. I know we got in a motorcycle or like a moped or motorcycle accident a couple months ago. So it's like I heard some good stuff about his recovery. And I'm not even sure Juwan Johnson is, to be honest. I see him on their roster.
Yeah, he was a sort of athlete that they got, like kind of like more of a safety. Running back / DB. Yes, running back / DB, but he played some quarterback in high school. He's kind of repped there at times. Yeah, I don't really know like what he is shaping up to be, but they've kind of used him as just their like plug and play guy. If there's a position they need some more depth for.
I get probably in between getting Van Buren and when Hurley's been hurt. Yeah. So I guess they need a scout team back up there.
Yeah. And I think Van Buren, like to me, Van Buren is a guy you probably don't take if you get Bryce Underwood. Like I'm kind of assuming Van Buren is a guy they're kind of grooming to step in next year. If Hurley's not ready. But I think obviously that was going to be Bryce Underwood if he had signed with LSU. So, like, I mean, I don't think this is like a competition in any way. I think Van Buren is there for next year, but like, it's a pretty good backup. I mean, a guy who started like 8 games last year in the SEC, 7 to 8 games, something like that. Like that's pretty solid.
Yeah, really solid backup there. So I think the point I was about to get into, the offensive line. LSU's offensive line last year was pass blocking wise one of the best in the country, maybe the best in the country, but they could not run the ball at all. Now, whether that was a choice, whether the offensive line just couldn't run block, I don't know, but they replaced basically everybody. And, maybe besides the center, but we'll see there. But we're going to find out about this LSU offensive line very, very quick. I mean, Peter Woods, they got TJ Parker, They got the transfer from Purdue, Will Heltz, I believe his name is. You're going to find
Will
out
Helt's
in week
the guy
one.
that went to Clemson. That's the oh, sorry, you're saying never mind.
Yeah,
you're saying.
yeah, Clemson. Peter Woods,
Sorry.
TJ Barker, Will Helt at Clemson. You're going to find, I mean, Nussmeier, we're going to find out really quickly if he's taken that next step in not turning the ball over when pressured, because that defensive line is going to get after him. I mean, even if this LSU's O-line is pretty good for a week one O-line, that front seven at Clemson is very scary, and they have some good linebackers, some good corners. Avion Terrell, A.J. Terrell's brother, I believe, there, that is a good corner as well that can lock down a receiver. So, I mean, I kind of wish we played LSU week one, because LSU wouldn't have time to go and look at the tape and see what went wrong when they were playing a really good defense. And that could have been us out there instead making them look at the tape. But, I mean, it might not matter. It just might not matter if Nuss hasn't taken that next step in. I mean, we talk about injuries with us, and Nuss doesn't have an injury history. He got hit in that bowl game against, was it Baylor?
Yes.
But Nuss is listed 6'2", 200 pounds. Only 200 pounds. For someone that defenses are going to be specifically targeting, he definitely has a lot of weight that he needs to put on. And, I mean, week one, week three, you're against two of the best pass rushing units in the country. If he's taking 4 or 5 sacks in those games, it's like, it could be a lot for him. And I remember he got hurt in the Florida game. He came back out and everything as well. So it's like one wrong hit and you're throwing Van Buren out there, which would be it's going to be a wonder to see what he is.
Yeah, I mean, pass protection's a concern with this new group. Certainly losing Will Campbell and Emory Jones at the tackle spots. Those are big losses this offseason. Running the ball, like going back to what you were saying about the run game, that's kind of been the albatross around the neck of this program since Brian Kelly took over. Obviously, when Jane Daniels was here, it didn't matter as much.
Yeah.
He was running for 1,100 yards at the quarterback spot. You didn't need to manufacture that with a running back. But last year, they really couldn't run the ball. And yeah, I don't know, how much of that's the offensive line, how much of that's the running back room. I'll tell you, I think they have some intriguing guys in that running back room. Caden Durham had some nice flashes as a true freshman last season. Harlem Berry, a 5-star true freshman coming in this year. They have liked what they've seen from him. Caleb Jackson's had some moments. So, I mean, I think they've got some guys there. So I think we're going to kind of find out. The offensive line is it's so much of a limiting factor for everything here, because I think if this offensive line can avoid like dropping off tremendously, I think you've got the makings of a very good offense here. It's just, not only do I think that's hard to assume that the offensive line is going to not drop off tremendously, but I think it's more likely than not that it will. I think that's going to take some impressive coaching from Brad Davis, who's a very well-regarded offensive line coach. But this is a tough spot for this offense because it all really just hinges on what that group looks like.
Yep. So I was looking at some stats earlier, and just so happened LSU was one of the teams that ended up being top of this list. I was looking at scoring offenses in SEC play last year, and I was looking and like Ole Miss was like second or third or something, and third I think they were, and they took 17 field goals last year, which was second. Do you know who was most in field goals in the SEC last year?
Was it LSU?
It was LSU. This offense, 18 field goals, most. I believe Ole Miss was second at 17, and I think next was like 13 field goals. So those two offenses really struggled to get into the end zone, which can be a combination of not being able to run the ball and maybe not having a red zone threat. Now, they go and get Nick Anderson, who, 6'5" or 6'4", 210 pounds, had 10 touchdowns his freshman year in the Big 12 at Oklahoma. So it's like, in theory, you're getting someone who at worst should be a pretty solid red zone threat for you. But you look at last year, they just couldn't finish drives with touchdowns. They could finish them with field goals, but getting those touchdowns was just a problem that made them that kept them out of a couple games. I mean, look at our game. They took 4 field goals or 3 field goals in our game, if I'm not mistaken. It's like if you take 2 of those and make them touchdowns, LSU maybe wins that game. Or, I mean, one of them even makes it a bit closer of a game there that goes to the final drive. I mean, LSU needs to be able to finish drives when they get into the opponent's territory. And you get Nick Anderson, who hopefully could be that guy. I know Tredez Green, tight end, 6'7", 240. Maybe he
Yeah.
could be that guy out there as well.
Plays basketball too. He's on the
Yeah.
basketball
Oh,
team
yep.
as well.
Yeah. So he has a good vertical there. I like Aaron Anderson. Wait, Aaron Anderson's only 5'8". Wow. I
Yeah,
mean,
he's a
good
small
deep
dude.
threat slot receiver, but like more of a deep shot there. And Berrien Brown should give you some good side to side speed out there that the other guys on this roster don't really give you. Maybe Chris Hilton as well takes a step, more of a deep threat as well. So it's like you probably need Nick Anderson to be as advertised, at least in the red zone, to help you finish drives. Or I think there's a world where LSU's offensive line is worse, but maybe they can run the ball better. Maybe it's something they focus on more.
Yeah, I mean, because I think what really hurt this team last year, like going back to what you were saying about finishing in the red zone, like, I mean, this when you lose guys who are such good red zone threats in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., and then you lose Jaden Daniels' ability to run and create with his legs, like you just had a much less dynamic, not a bad offense, but just a much less dynamic offense. And that's what this LSU team was really missing. I mean, I think they've got the potential to have more of that this year. Like, when you look at the receiving additions they made last year, you know, it was like, CJ Daniels was just not as advertised, you know, a guy who was 1,000-yard receiver at Liberty, and it just didn't work out at LSU last season. So, you know, we'll see. They're kind of hitting the, the slots again with the transfer portal. But I mean, I think it's hard to imagine.
I really liked Kyron Lacy. I really liked Kyron Lacy and Aaron Anderson. They were just missing that X wide receiver. I mean, Chris Hilton was injured and didn't play as well as he could have, and CJ Daniels as well there. So it's like, if Anderson can be that guy, I mean, I don't think Berrien Brown is as good as a Lacy was. I think Lacy was a really good possession receiver that they could miss having this year. Because I don't know if they have like a possession receiver on this roster. I mean, maybe one of the guys we don't know, or like a Destin Hill who originally went to FSU and transferred out, but like, I just don't know if they have that possession receiver that it's third down, that's your go-to guy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, maybe not. I mean, you know, we'll see Xavier Thomas kind of played a little bit last year too. Kyle Parker was a redshirt freshman, played a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think the top level of this group, like they've got playmakers. I agree, maybe not that like just go-to reliable target that Kyron Lacy was. You know, I think Kyron Lacy had a very nice season. I think didn't necessarily live up to the level of like of Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas or what have you, which is kind of what the expectations were coming into last season. But
expecting him to be Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas is
but I mean, really I understand. I agree. But like, that's the way that people were talking around this program, like how just, you know, how nonstop LSU's production of these really good receivers is. Like, that's kind of what the expectation
be that was. Too? Or is like,
I think
is that what
they
LSU
see it as, I think they say it as closer to that. Like, I think the kind of perception is Lacy was good, maybe not quite as good as you hoped he would be. CJ Daniels was a bust, but Aaron Anderson it did work out.
Pretty good.
Now you've kind of got it right this time around. I mean, I think that's what their perception is. I mean, we'll see what the reality is there, but
yeah, I guess. I mean, that's very interesting. I didn't realize they thought they were going to be like that elite. Like, I thought they'd be pretty good. And
maybe not the unit across the board, but Kyron Lacy, absolutely, people thought he would like emerge as like one of the best receivers in the SEC. That was totally the expectation going into last season.
I think Lacy was like a top 10, top 15 level receiver in the SEC last year too, which
he was. He definitely was.
Originally committing and playing under Billy Napier his freshman year as like a 3-star receiver. And then coming to LSU, sitting on the bench for 2 years then. I mean, I guess, maybe they really but like, he had to produce at all. I feel like that's kind of weird that he had that much hype about him.
It's just, it's what he had shown when he was on the field. And again, just the idea of being next up, because they were also just, there was not really a lot of doubt about Garrett Nussmeier's ability. I mean, I'm not even kidding when I tell you there were people going into 2023, going into the season when and I only say, I used to cover LSU for those of you that don't know. So like, I've got kind of, I was covering the team at the time. I've got kind of an idea where their fan base was at. Like, there were legitimately people going into 2023, the year that Jaden Daniels won the Heisman, that like wanted Garrett Nussmeier to win the job over him and like continued to want to
I
see
remember that.
Garrett Nussmeier, even like in October of Jaden Daniels' Heisman campaign. Like, it was truly
Really?
unbelievable. It was truly
October is
unbelievable.
wild.
I'm not saying that was a majority opinion. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
I get you.
I saw, like, there were people that were like ready for Jaden Daniels to go because they wanted the Garrett Nussmeier era to begin. Like, that's just the level of hype this guy had for a guy who had really not played that
Yeah.
many meaningful snaps at all.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I just I don't see that true elite player on this offense besides maybe Caden Durham, but I don't know if I trust him to run the ball. After the last couple seasons when you erased Jaden Daniels from this team. But I think it's time to look at the defense here. I guess let's start in the trenches, kind of how we did last in the offense. But I mean, we mentioned his name earlier, Jack Pyburn, Florida transfer. Jack Pyburn isn't going to be some elite player that's some game changer. We know what Jack Pyburn is. He's going to be a very, very solid run defender who's going to play smart football, who raises the floor, which is what he did for us here when he started playing and coming on after that in that Mississippi State game in week 4 for us. We saw him play some really good football, make tackles, not give up big plays. And I know LSU needs that. I mean, they haven't really had that. We hadn't had it either since last year or until last year either. So LSU, I think they really need that presence. Probably not gonna rush the passer that well. Like he didn't really at Florida either. So, I don't know if he had to put in his contract with LSU that he's gonna be in there on third downs, like he wanted at Florida. But we know what Pyburn is as a player. We'll see how LSU uses him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pyburn, like, I think I can see the vision here for what they're doing at least. I think pairing Pyburn, who's more of a run guy, up with Patrick Payton, who, again, coming off a disappointing year, but I think everyone believes has the potential. I mean, he was a freshman ACC Defensive Player of the Year or something like that. I don't remember exactly what he was, but he had a really nice early career at FSU. And then obviously not really anybody at FSU had a very good season last year. I'm not sure it's fair to put that all on him. So we'll see. But I think I think I see what they're doing at the edge, and I think it's solid. We'll see how if it's great, I think, but it's solid. On the interior, I don't love it as much.
No. I mean, you'll look at last year. Here we go. I know they lost some guys. I'm trying to remember exactly who it was, but last year on the interior, they lose Savion Jones, Jacobian Guillory, Braden Swinson, more of an edge guy. Braden Swinson, who I think is their biggest loss from that D line. I just don't know if this D line has that takeover player. Because Pyburn's going to be good and solid for you. Dominic McKinley could be that guy. Former 5-star recruit, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not even sure who Ahmad Burrow is. I mean,
so just to jump in real quick, Guillory is back this year. He tore his Achilles, I believe, in week 2 last year. Missed the whole rest of the season. So he's back. Hasn't played a ton, but is the most experienced guy on this defensive line by far. Ahmad Burrow was a lower rated 4-star. Actually ended up playing quite a bit last year. And then obviously Dom McKinley, former 5-star, but also didn't play a ton last year.
Yep. And Sadir Mitchell, who transferred over from Texas, was a low-rated 4-star as well. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, if McKinley isn't that guy on this defensive line, I don't know if they have someone who's going to be that real game changer that can help you take over a game, unless they move Harold Perkins out there to rush the passer.
I think it could be Patrick Payton. I think Patrick Payton having a really nice bounce back season here would not surprise me in the slightest. I think he's poised to kind of be that focused player in the pass rush. And again, I'm willing to say that he probably wasn't the issue at FSU last year on a team that went 2-10 when he had been good previously. You know what I mean?
Well, I think you can make the argument that he was just a beneficiary of the other elite defensive linemen on FSU's roster. Jared Verse and who am I forgetting? Why am I just forgetting their FSU's D line?
The interior guy. I know who you're talking about. I'm also blanking on his name.
They had Kalen DeLoach as well off the edge, I'm pretty sure. Who was really good for him, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like
They also
Maybe
had
he was
the
just
guy that plays for the Rams, I believe, the interior guy.
Farmer. Is it Farmer?
He was there too, but
That's
that's
on
not
the
who I'm
roster.
thinking of. I don't know who. I can't think of the guy's name. Totally blanking, but it was a defensive tackle for them like 2 years ago.
Here we go. I got it right. I don't know. I pulled up 2024, 2023 defensive line. Braden Fisk. That's right.
Yeah,
Braden
thank you, Braden Fisk. Yeah, who I think does play for the Rams. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure right there. So it's like, was he just a beneficiary of playing next to Verse, Deloach, Fisk, Farmer? DJ Lundy was a pretty good linebacker. I think play off the edge as well, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like, was he just another guy who was able to take advantage of that, or what is he a potential all elite player that can help get to the QB and become a disruptor in the backfield that LSU desperately needs?
No, I mean, yeah, maybe. I mean, like I said, I do think playing opposite Pyburn is kind of nice, even though Pyburn's not going to be a major pass rushing threat. I'm like, we'll see about Dominic McKinley. I mean, again, just didn't get a lot of opportunities last year, but was a really highly rated recruit. I mean, this was one of the bigger recruiting wins Brian Kelly's had in his entire time at LSU. Stole him from Texas A&M, I believe, right after early signing day. Yeah.
So I think you need to see probably one of Patrick Payton or Dominic McKinley take a pretty large step, or this defensive line is going to need a lot of help from its linebackers, which it might get here. Let's talk about the linebackers here. It's really the story of the Week brothers here. You have Whit Weeks, who emerged as it was a sophomore last year. That was a freshman, but emerged as a true sophomore last year. Played some pretty good football. Not really that great against Florida, in my opinion, but outside of that, he got a lot of hype and played some pretty good football in his true sophomore season. Played pretty well, had 49 tackles as well as freshman year, so not something out of the blue there. But you pair him next to West Weeks, who is a transfer from Virginia, only played in 4 games last year, for Virginia, but was able to rack up 15 tackles in those 4 games. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see having 2 brothers. Maybe they have some good chemistry. They're playing next to each other there, but I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, West has only been kind of a sporadic contributor. He's been there for this will be I think his 3rd season there. So he's been kind of just a sporadic contributor. Whit Weeks is a really interesting player. Obviously we didn't have his best game against Florida, but he's had some really nice games. Got hurt, I believe, had a torn ACL or something, I believe, in the bowl game. So we'll see what I think he's expected to be fine. He's not expected to miss any of the season, but you'll see. I think that's always an area where you're a little bit worried when a guy's coming off an injury like that.
Yeah.
But I think I think he's a really good starter at inside linebacker. I think his brother West, who's his older brother, who's honestly not as good as he is, but can still be a solid depth piece. And then obviously you have the guy that, we all know what he's capable of at times, but just, struggled with consistency in Harold Perkins.
He struggles with, we don't know what he is. Or the staff doesn't know what he is.
I don't know. I don't know if that's his struggle. I feel like I know what he is. It seems like it's them that
can he be what he is? I think is also an interesting question.
Yeah. I mean, he was at his best as a 3rd down pass rushing specialist off the edge as a true freshman, and they've just completely declined to use him that way. They've played him inside off the ball. They've moved him to sort of a slot where like we were talking about, the nickel or the star being listed as a linebacker position for us. That's kind of more how LSU's actually using it in practice with him. So they're trying all sorts of things with him. Nothing's really worked. Obviously, he got hurt early last year, missed almost the entire season. So it's not necessarily fair to say he hasn't looked good since his true freshman season, because maybe he would have had a better year last year than he did in 2023. But it's just, we're getting to the point with him where it's year 4. At some point, we got to figure out what this guy's going to be, or he's just a guy who had a really good true freshman season,
Yep. All right. Move on from the linebacker position. Whit Weeks is really going to be the story. And I mean, if we see something there from Harold Perkins. Maybe he could be that big story as well. But going to the corner room, this is where things get interesting because they bring in a couple of transfers. Matt Sorndelane, who is seen as one of the better corners in maybe all of college football. They bring him over from Virginia Tech, senior transfer out there. Had 4 interceptions, 7 pass deflections. That's really good. I've seen them mocked as high as like the first round, late first round type of guys. So it's going to be interesting seeing year 1 of a new system here at LSU. But the name we're all looking at, Jakeem Jackson, former top 60, 55 recruit from, he was teammates with LJ. No, he was not teammates with LJ McCray. He was teammates with someone else. I'm forgetting, but I think of Lakeland. But no, Kissimmee. It was teammates out of Kissimmee. It was teammates with Derek LeBlanc, who went to Oklahoma, and guy who went to UCF, his name I'm forgetting as well. But ended up not doing too well here. Got injured his 3rd season here, which is probably what sealed his fate at UF. Like, he wasn't able to break out in his 2nd year here, and that's really probably what ended his career here at UF, and just was never able to break through, whether it's an injury, whether he's just not good enough. I mean, he has the athleticism. He has all the tools you need to be a good corner. I mean, Corey Raymond, a bit washed in my opinion. So it's like, I don't know if we'll see Jakeem Jackson get developed there, but
yeah,
they also bring back Ashton Stamps, who was their number 1 corner last year, who was a bit burnt toast in the LSU Florida game with Elijah Badger, but is a veteran guy now in his junior season there at LSU. Maybe he'll take another step.
Yeah, I think secondary is the part of this team that I think is most poised to potentially be like really improved this year. Truthfully, like Jakeem might not be starting here. I honestly would probably be willing to bet he wouldn't be. Yeah. I mean, Stamps, like you said, didn't have his best game against Florida, but still a guy they liked a lot in his first 2 years. I think they're optimistic about him. Obviously, Delane brought him in to sort of be the guy in the secondary. And then you've got some other guys here, like PJ Woodland, kind of playing more in the nickel. He was like he was kind of a weird case because I remember going into last season, he was like a 3-star, like not a very highly recruited guy at all. But all throughout the offseason, I just kept hearing about how good PJ Woodland looks. Like, just one of the guys you're not expecting at all to contribute year 1. But he ended up actually playing a decent amount. They like him. Obviously with Jakeem in there, obviously DJ, talking about Corey Raymond being washed, but he did get DJ Pickett, a 5-star corner in the 2025 class. So
Washington development.
Yeah.
Washington development, not as a recruiter.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. I think they've got pieces in the secondary. I mean, a lot of them are unproven, but I think this has the potential to be a much improved unit. I think it was a unit that took steps throughout the season last year. It started off pretty bad. I think it got a lot better.
Something that scares me for LSU, though, is you go back to like 2019 when they won the championship, where they had Garrick Stingley, Christian Fulton was still on that team. I think they had a good safety whose name I'm forgetting right now. They had all these good players, but that LSU defense was just not that good. It was good enough to win a championship still, but if you remember, they were giving up like 30 points to Vanderbilt. They gave up 30 plus to Texas. Early in the season, that LSU defense, having great players on it, even on the D-line, was just getting scored on a lot. Now, their offense is scoring like every single time, so defense gets tired, and it's like maybe that played a part of it, but they were still just getting beaten coverage a lot, like schematical issues or whatever it is. Like, they had the players that just didn't gel well together, and you look back at Corey Raymond, it's like 2019, that was the case. 2019, they have Eli Ricks and Derek Stingley. Did Stingley sit out, or was he injured in 2020?
Stingley, he was injured. He was injured pretty much all of 2020 and 2021, if I remember correctly.
But like week 1 of 2020, Mississippi State, KJ Costello throws for SEC high in pass yards and like 500 something in that one game. And we never saw that LSU defense improve. I mean, Eli Ricks ended up being a good freshman corner. After that freshman season, he like fell off. So it's like they've had good players under Raymond there, and for some reason, that LSU DB play just has not been good in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, yeah, LSU's kind of losing its grip on the DBU claim, but I do think this will probably be the best secondary LSU's had since that 2019 team, which maybe isn't saying a ton, but I think it's where it's at. I mean, I think, Blake Baker, who I don't think is still the highest paid defensive coordinator in the country, but was at the time when Brian Kelly hired him. I'm assuming that's
I
probably
think he still
either
is.
Tom Allen. It might be Tom Allen now at Clemson. Who got hired away from Penn State. I don't know. But either way, he's one of the highest rated. I mean, they brought him in to fix that defense. It was kind of slow progress last year, but it was definitely better by the end of the year. Like, I think this has the potential to be a solid defense. I don't really see elite potential in this LSU defense, but like, if the defensive line is good enough and the secondary takes some steps, I mean, you got to feel pretty good about the linebacker play. So, like, I think that is the path to this being a competent SEC defense.
So it still is Blake Baker.
It is.
Okay. Tom Allen's making $1.9 million.
Got it.
Just some sad news that just got reported in the middle of the NBA Finals. We're recording. This is live during the NBA Finals. Tyrese Halliburton tore his ACL.
What?
In the first quarter. Yep.
Oh my God. Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's what everyone's saying in the chat. That's a torn ACL. Like, yeah.
Oh my
God. That's just unfortunate. I mean,
that's crazy.
Middle of this preview and everything, but like, I felt like that's some pretty crazy information to come out.
Man, what a back.
He had 9 points in the first quarter too.
Dude, what a just way to deflate the entire team, man. That sucks.
Yeah, they're down 3 at end of the first quarter. So I mean, maybe they'll play up to them, but like, we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. But let's finish this up here. We're almost done here at the LSU preview. You get to their safety room. They bring in AJ Halsey from Houston. Was a really good safety there at Houston during the spring portal cycle. Who is the name expected to start? Is it going to be Javion Tovion or Javion Tovion, former top 60 recruit, or
Toviano
Spears?
I mean, I think you could see both of them. They both kind of seen sporadic playing time. Toviano had a weird off-season, off-the-field issue that seemingly has been resolved, so I think he's good to go. I'd say I probably would lean him. But yeah, like you said, another position, bringing in Halsey, which just another reason why I think the secondary, that was a nice pickup, I think. Another reason why I think the secondary is poised to potentially take a very, very big leap, though I hear your concerns about Corey Raymond.
Yep. I mean, Spears, former top 100 recruit. I mean, LSU, even when they were bad, they've had all this talent in the secondary. It's just they need to get the guys to end up playing well. And, they've got some veteran transfers in Delane and Halsey, got some other talented guys. I mean, we haven't even mentioned DJ Pickett yet, who might start for this secondary, 5-star corner out of Zephyr Hills, Florida, true freshman there. So it's like they have all the talent to have a really good secondary, not even just a good secondary, but maybe it could be a combination of they don't have a defensive guy that gets pressure on the QB. So, a Klubnik or a Lagway can just stand in the pocket and have all day to throw, and it just ends up tearing apart the secondary. But, on paper, the guys in the secondary should play pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think this on paper could be the strength of the defense. It's just we'll see if it is in practice.
Yep. All right. I mean, let's each say one thing that we think is either that's going to be both Florida's biggest strong suit in this game and Florida's biggest weakness in this game. I mean, we did this when we had Zach on from LSU, Florida Voice of College Football. I'm going to try to say different because we said the D line against our O line. Looking outside of the D line versus the O line, I'm going to say something interesting here as well. You have two coaches who are also both pretty widely known to be poor game day coaches in big games, especially. I mean, Brian Kelly especially is known to be a pretty bad coach in big games. So I think that's going to be interesting. But Biggest weakness here, I'm gonna go. I get it really all revolves around that LSU. I'll wait. I'll flip the script. I'll go Florida's O line versus that LSU defensive line here because I mean, say McKinley ends up stepping up. Well, who is he going to be facing on that interior? Damian George, Jake Slaughter. I mean, Jaya Harris. I mean, Jaya Harris. I mean, not Jaya Harris, but Jake Slaughter, the best center in college football. I mean, Damian George and Jaya Harris were two of the better graded guards. They were both, I think they were tied for 6th in the SEC among guards in run blocking and both in the top 15 in pass blocking. So two very solid guards there. I think George a bit better than Harris is now. So it's even if McKinley is a really good player, he's going to be facing some pretty tough offensive linemen. And same with Patrick Bateman. If he takes that step, he's going to be going against Austin Barber, who some have as a projected top 5 pick. Only gave up 5 pressures all of last season.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what I'm saying kind of goes a little hand in hand with what you said. I mean, I think in addition to the advantage Florida has along the offensive with its offensive line, I think this could be a game where Florida is able to just gash them on the ground. When you look at their weakness being on the interior of the defensive line, Whit Weeks is a good player. But this LSU team hasn't necessarily been a great, super, tough run defense up front. I think outside of Whit Weeks, I worry about that linebacker core a bit too in the front 7. So I think if Florida's run game is as good as I expect it to be, this could just be a clinic from those guys. I'm not sure. I can't hear what you're saying, Tyler. I'm not sure if that's on my
Sorry, I had the mic muted. Sorry, I had the mic muted. So I was saying, if Florida wins this game, like how you just said, we're just gashing them, maybe not throwing the ball a lot, and we end up winning this game 24-20. It's Lagway maybe only has 150 yards, but we run for 200. There's still going to be fans who are going to complain about Billy Napier's play calling, and it's I know this for a fact. I know a couple fans who will complain if Lagway isn't throwing 300 yards a game. But it's if you just win football games. That's really all that matters here. So it's if you're winning football games, running for 200 yards and throwing for 150, that's fine. If you're winning them throwing for 300 yards and not running for much, that's also fine. Just win the football games.
I think what would be most frustrating for fans is which I think is fair to an extent, is what I think would be the most maddening way for this game to play out, but it still be a Florida win, would be Florida runs for 200 yards, but it's almost all in the first half, and they jump out to a 24-7 or 24-10 lead.
I don't think that would be as frustrating as you think.
Don't score in the second half and let LSU make it a game. I think that is the frustration with Billy Napier, is just he doesn't keep his foot on the gas at times.
I could see that, but I think no matter how you win this game at LSU, it should be looked at as a good thing. I mean,
yeah, 100%. If you win this game,
unless
you're fine.
Unless Clemson just blows out LSU.
Yeah, true. If they look really bad in that game, yeah.
And it's a game where we probably shouldn't have won, and we find a way to escape. Yeah. It's a road game, and this one's going to be at LSU. I mean, both those games are technically at Death Valley, but this game's at LSU, so it's bit different, and they got some chance to improve. But if Clemson blows out LSU and then we go and escape Death Valley with the win, then I could definitely see fans being pretty upset about it, even though maybe people are going to be looking short-sighted and just being oh, well, Clemson could destroy them. Why couldn't we? But it's they could have improved, because I think I'm getting into
Clemson also might be the best team in the country. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Clemson's the best team in the country.
But now getting into what I think could be the biggest weakness here for Florida. I mean, I've talked about it as maybe something that I'm a bit lower on with Garrett Nussmeier in the passing game, I'm taking a reverse here. I've been pretty high on Florida's receiving core, but this is going to be Florida's first true test against these LSU DBs. And I've talked about Mansour Delane, I've talked about Stamps, DJ Pickett, Jakeem Jackson. one of the two highly graded recruits at safety as guys that could step up. But like, we have a bunch of young wide receivers now. J. Michael Sturdivant's an experienced guy. What if Sturdivant's just good, and it's like they put Delane on him, and Sturdivant is just taken out of the game? So then you're relying on Trey Wilson. What if like Trey Wilson is still figuring his things out as a route runner, and it's just a give the ball and let him make a play type of guy to where he's not a true receiving threat? Well, then you're going to Mizell or your true freshman in Vernell Brown or Dallas Wilson, who, I mean, I don't think Dallas Wilson's going to be physically ill-prepared for a game because his stature is just insane. But, like, it's going to be his first time facing real SEC opponents. And it's like, I mean, you look at, DJ Pickett's also a freshman, but Stamps, Badger destroyed him last year, but Stamps, that's just battle-tested for Stamps now. He's gone through and faced a really good receivers all of last season, and now he's going to get some true freshmen in his first SEC action. Or what maybe gets fans even worse, more mad than what we just talked about, Khalil Jackson's out there and just can't get any separation. It's like if Sturdivant isn't that great, there's a chance to where you can just have your number one corner take him out and your other corners just and safeties be more experienced, more physical, and just early on in the season, those other guys could have trouble getting open.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we're pretty high on the receiving core, but I do think a lot of that is kind of projection. We're projecting about Dallas Wilson. We're projecting about Sturdivant. We're projecting about Mizell. We're projecting about Trey Wilson to an extent. So
absolutely,
there's not a lot that like you can just say like definitively without a shadow of a doubt, you feel really good about this part of the receiving core. For my weakness for Florida, I'll actually flip what you're saying. What concerns me, I'm pretty high on this LSU receiving core. And after everything we've talked about today about the secondary and, talking about how guys like Jordan Castell struggled earlier in the year last year, if you see similar struggles in the secondary, this could be a really scary game for Florida. Obviously we'll see what the protection looks like for Garrett Nussmeier, but like, I think Garrett Nussmeier is a guy that if you give him easy open throws, he will make you pay for it.
Yep.
And so it's just going to be a major early test for all the guys that are playing in the secondary, that I guess all the guys that aren't Devin Moore, really, because I think Devin Moore is really one of the only guys out there that I think if he's healthy, really not really a question in my mind. Like I think I don't worry about his ability, but he's really the only one that's like that. So I could very easily see this team, just especially not having been tested by a receiving core like this in those first 2 weeks. I could really see this secondary just not being ready for this game. That's kind of the scariest scenario for me.
Yep. All right. So do we even want to predict the game right now? Maybe because we gave some predictions like a month ago when we did our scheduled predictions. Before the week of the game on that Sunday before, we'll obviously give some predictions. I don't think either of our predictions have changed from the last two times we've talked about it. I'm still taking the Gators to win this game. You're still taking LSU, I presume.
Yeah. And just to clarify on that, because like if you're listening to this, it definitely doesn't sound like I'm like super sure that LSU is a better team than Florida, I don't think. But first of all, Florida hasn't won a night game in Death Valley since 2009, I believe. And
right.
Yeah, so it's just, especially with LSU, either like one of two things is going to happen. Either LSU is riding super high from winning on the road in week 1 against Clemson, or their back is completely against the wall coming into this game because the season is totally off the rails if you start 1-2 or 2.
You know what this is similar to?
1-2.
Very similar to Florida last year. Week 1 against Miami, it's like, okay, Florida's probably going to go 1-1 against Miami and A&M because they're going to either win that Miami game and maybe be overconfident going to that A&M game, then lose that, or they're going to lose that Miami game and Billy Napier is going to be fighting for his job against Texas A&M.
Yeah,
Florida still went 0-2 in those games. Now we turned around, but like, I don't know. I feel like.
You're going to hear Brian Kelly. You're going to hear Brian Kelly hot seat talk if they start 1-2. There's no doubt about it.
Easily. I think my hot take is Brian Kelly isn't going to be the coach in 2026 for LSU.
It's a lot of money, but Not saying
It
it's
is a
not
lot of money.
possible. It's just a lot of money,
LSU
but
will
it's
pay
definitely
it.
within their own possibility. I think they probably would. I think they probably would if it came down to it.
Yeah, all right. So that'll be our LSU preview. Next week we'll be doing the game after that, revenge factor for us against Miami. So hope you guys enjoyed that.